Hey, this is Luke from Gay Paris. You're listening to the Moshpit on Sin.
Luke, congratulations on the new record. So what has the fan reaction be to the new songs?
You know, it's really, really early days, and I feel like we're the kind of band that likes to reflect on the ancient. So the new songs, I guess, haven't been out for long enough. I did notice, like, the only times we really played these songs live have been at Sleep Makes Waves support and Dillinger Escape Plan support. Really couldn't get more opposite, as like, other than the fact every band has electric amplified guitars. But it's gone well. I feel like they're hitting people that haven't heard us before, are getting down with it. As far as like the singles go, I feel like it's been a good response. I think Dean's upset that someone said their favorite song has a funky bass line because he's been dodging funk and groove for years. So we're having fun haranguing him about that. But yeah, I think it's good. You know what my favorite response to this has been. I looked at the video comments for Sackcloth Scene of the Cornfield, and someone just like weak and then C-bomb expletive, and then I thought this band was going to sound like Clutch, and someone called us hipsters trying to do metal.
Oh yes, I saw that meme. You made that a meme. That was amazing.
Yeah, so I've actually really enjoyed the people have been told that we're one thing, and when we're not the thing that they think they're going to like, they get upset about something they've never experienced. So that's been really fun for me. For us, going into a new album and tour cycle, you know, having some exposure to new people who really don't care for us, which just makes our dance moves all the sweeter.
Why don't you decide to crowdfund this new record?
Man, I sort of wish we didn't. I think we did it because it's something that worked for us in the past, and we had a positive experience. It's in between album cycles, like we went from playing 100 shows in a year to playing 20. Now, being the fragile humans that we are, with all of our self-entitled, you know, prepackaged stuff that we come with, I feel like no one's telling me that I'm awesome like 2 or 3 times a week when we're not touring. So when you crowdfund something, it's essentially people saying, I believe in your art, and it means enough to me to pony up, you know, the future difference, and I trust you to deliver. So that's a nice feeling to have, I guess, on an ego-stroking sense. But we honestly we couldn't get the money together to record it, and we actually ended up spending a lot more than we wanted because we re-recorded. We recorded in the US, came back to Australia, and re-recorded, and then re-recorded. So it was originally financial, and I wouldn't want to do it again, even for that. I'd rather not put out a record than have to, because we have failed to deliver on time, and in trying to say that we're better, this record makes us better people than we were, or for me, I feel it certainly does. We've failed at delivering on what we owed people when we said we would, and that feels kind of vile to me. But we did it because we needed the money. Really, that's why we did it, because we spent all of our money playing. You know, maybe we're just not popular enough to make enough money to keep touring forever. That's my end game in this band, is to not stop touring. Yeah. So money, cash rules everything around me.
Of course. Well, what was the process like getting all your friends to support the band's crowdfunding efforts with that video where they kind of describe you as, I quote, fucking shit, beat it fucking hipsters, disgusting vile fucking band, beat it pixies from Sydney, and fucking virgins?
Most of those things are absolutely subjective statements, except for the two that strike me as ontological facts that could just be real. Maybe we are pixies and maybe we are virgins. There's a lot of other, you know, accusation in there. But, you know, what I took out of that video was a comment from the Snowdroppers telling us that we had no hooks in our songs, and then they sung one of their hackneyed old world blues riffs that they're so much trying to escape from now because they realized their scene's played out. Get right back at you, Paulie. We'll play Dungeons and Dragons soon. But it's, you know, I took away from that. I feel like that made me really conscious of going melody over lyrics instead of I always write lyrics and try and cram the melody into what will fit. And so I feel like, they did this. I feel like some of those remarks did us a good service. Well, you know what? We got a dude from Clowns called us Flyboy. I can really appreciate that. I'd love to have that voice and their money. Then we wouldn't have to crowdfund. But and some of it hurt because I'm trying to make light of it. It actually there are very dark times at night in the shower with the light off, just wondering what I'm doing with my life. Thanks to my friends bringing all these things up, so it's been lovely. It's been wonderful, and I'll still try and be friends because I'm fragile ego and terribly lonely.
Who's your favorite person to hang out with from those bands?
I guess I'm going to say Paulie from the Snowdroppers, purely because, as I mentioned, we were playing a sort of pretty regular Dungeons and Dragons game for a while. We both sort of released albums at the same time, and we have to tour and rehearse and tour and do all the other things associated with it. So Dungeons and Dragons has taken a hiatus on us, but I don't have a social life outside of the band because the band is essentially partying all weekend, every weekend, or partying Wednesday through Sunday, and you need to go home and do your day job and hang out with your partner and do all these other things. So just getting that sort of once or twice a week, 3 to 4 hours at a time playing D&D. So maybe it wasn't because it was Paul from the Snowdroppers. It was just having that time to be social outside of I'm not obligated to be a party boy. Some dudes in Newcastle always say, "Oh, you guys talk a big game about partying, and you never hang out after shows," because we always drive back to Sydney. And I just love that they catch us out on that. On me, I'm obligated to be an asshole, I guess, or be an outrageous party fuckwit. No, really, I'm telling you, I'd live to be on the stage. But also being a dungeon master is a way to take center stage as well. So I get that out in D&D as well. So short answer is Paulie K, Snowdroppers.
Okay, well, your tour begins next month. Looks like it's going to be a great tour. You're going to many different places, but Saturday, October 10th is at Cherry Bar is the Melbourne show. So what can Melbourne fans expect from that show, Luke?
If they've seen us before, they sort of, I guess, it's hard to tell what people who haven't seen us before to expect because, look, it's guitar, bass, drums, vocals. Apparently we're in league with Satan, but rock and roll has a long history of that, just like it's got a long history of guys wearing fucking tight black jeans. It's maybe it's shameful that I have to say guys, but it's a pretty male-dominated scene. So that's something to work on. But if you have seen us before, I'm sorry. We're still going to dance like crazy, but maybe I'm more melancholy and reflective in between songs. I'm sick of being the sex joke guy. I'm sick of telling people what the fuck to do. I'll ask that you hail Satan with me, but I'll explain to you why I think that it's important to have metaphor as a form of resistance, and I will walk you through information and consent, and hopefully I can still be entertaining while I do it. And I hope I'm going to come across as someone who thinks that rock and roll can do the work of philosophy and not only act in the world, but can maybe help change it. Now, maybe this is my last-ditch attempt at some kind of intellectual and moral credibility before my haggard self-loathing overwhelms me, but I feel like I need to make this last-ditch attempt. And if I can do that while doing jump kicks off kick drums and leaning in for a kiss with Dean, well, that's great too.
Well, if we go back to your first album, what would you say has changed in the sound?
I feel we are not trying to be anything other than four dudes who grew up, I guess, on metal and punk rock. I think the first record, we really tried to put a blues sound into it, or we tried to, we were coming out of years of playing in metal and punk bands, and I feel like we all like the blues and we all like rock and roll, and certainly Dean and me really enjoy dancing, and that's just more danceable music, so I feel like there's less I feel like we haven't tried to force anything in there. We haven't deliberately tried to be hillbilly or blues, which I think was sort of formative to our sound. But I feel like there's a lot more of our natural, what we what I guess a lot more of what we listen to driving around is coming out in our sound now. There's more of that sort of riffy. I guess Dean's gonna hate it. He doesn't like it when I say funk or metal about the band. I won't say funk because it hurts his feelings. But I feel like there's more obvious. Our metal heritage maybe is more obvious. Metal purists will probably just say these fucking hipster cunts, whatever. But there's more of our punk rock sort of leanings. Whether or not I feel like getting really too old to dance to it. I just can't keep up with the BPM of a good punk beat. But there's that coming up. Maybe there's more of our honest pedigree rather than us trying. We were deliberately trying to find something different, and we realized that the best thing we're best at is just what was already there, which is heavy.
So how did Gay Paris begin?
Oh man, have a sip of water because I've just worn myself out talking. Give me a sec. All right, sorry, you've caught me in the middle of rehearsal too, so I'm a bit hoarse. So Gay Paris begins. Three of us were. It started off. We had a different drummer, Daniel. Four of us were in a mathy screamo band or something. I don't know what to call the music, but it was played a lot of gigs in the hardcore, I guess, or metalcore. I don't even think metalcore existed back then. But so we were playing that. We went on tour. The last tour we ever did, we went on tour with a band called The City Sunrise. They've become Gatherer since then. But we toured with them in NZ in Australia and thought, man, these guys are so much better at this than us. I think we've become jaded by the sound and certainly the scene. I cracked my knuckles backstage one night just because I cracked my knuckles and toes as a nervous habit. And I used to get nervous before I went on stage. And some dude took it as a sign that I wanted to fight him. Like, man, this is terrible. Why the fuck are we in this scene? You should feel safe. I never felt safe at all. People being blatantly disrespectful to people for looking different in a scene that was putatively different to start with. So, get out of that, play some rock and roll. We started Gay Paris playing supports for folk and blues bands to them someone called us in our first few shows death metal with a smile. Now I listen to death metal and I smile a lot, but I can't see the connection for that band. But it was cool that we were playing such different music, and everyone was just like, man, you guys party so you guys are so positive on stage. It's so cool to see the band so brutal. Like, I don't think we're brutal because we actually listen to what I consider to be really, really metal. But it was so cool to come out of this, labels and tags and dress codes, cookie cutter thing, and just be able to do whatever you want. Now, I could never give up my tight black jeans, but everything else, you get to experiment. And in the end, I'm back to just wearing band T-shirts and I'm not running on stage in a cape trying to be, white Australia's answer to Bootsy Collins or something. So that's the beginnings.
So who came up with the Gay Paris name and why?
Man, I've been cringing about this question for 6 years because I don't want there to be anything in the name that lets us be claiming that we have any message. And I feel like names, we can't call ourselves Adam and Lachlan and Dean and Luke and put that on a flyer next to a price tag. So I came up with it. I just said it. We were talking when we were breaking up the other band and talking. I think we were joking about bands from the old scene. Everyone's like, sorry, Buried in Verona. Everyone's like a Buried in Verona or As Venice Sinks. Everyone's got classical European city names, and you got to be tough though. So I just said Gay Paris, and that's sort of stuck. And I tried to work out what that meant to me, but then it doesn't mean anything. I said it in a moment of whether or not it was ill-considered humor. I said it. It stuck. It was originally going to be an album title for sort of a narrative. Like the first line of a song I ever wrote for Gay Paris, I wrote before the band even existed. It was, I think it's, "You slovenly brigadiers, we met you in Gay Paris." And it was just a throwaway line not a throwaway, it was the introduction to a narrative I was writing. So, in Gay Paris, I was thinking I was obsessed with the idea, monster legend from an animal apparently called the Beast of Gévaudan. And I was really into that at the time, and I developed this sort of fake mythology around it that I was using as a metaphor to comment on whatever I forget what I was even talking about on the first record now. I think it was something to do with how we consume art, but I haven't been able to keep up with my metaphors. But it was throwaway, and I feel like there was nothing. You know, I give long-winded answers to something that we just needed a band name. I'm like, you know, I feel like there are only two band names that I feel like you can use as a descriptor for your music. Rage Against the Machine, that's their mission statement. And I guess throw Public Enemy in there. And then also Totally Unicorn, and that's because they're just these wild, magical party animals. And you know, like, I can't think of, like, a band name doesn't need to be a descriptor. We just have to have a name. And I don't want to call it, yeah, as I say, can't be Luke Monks and Lachlan Marks and Dean Podmore and Adam Simpson. Yeah, I'm never good at answering that question, and I've had a lot of practice.
I can imagine every interview starts or ends with that kind of question, right?
Yeah, and I always try and make it more interesting than it is, or make it funny. But I guess maybe I'm tired of being funny. I want to be fun, but I can't realize, like, Dean's the funny guy, and they always give me. I do all the interviews, and maybe we should let Dean do it because he's still got a really positive outlook on things.
Please, what is your favorite song from Ladies and Gentlemen, may we present to you the Dark Arts, and maybe tell us something about that song. Okay, I
feel like it's the closing track. There are a few reasons that I really love it before I tell you sort of about it. It's an excellent way to be. It's got all of the sadness that I like about what's coming off of my lyrics now. I feel like, and you get that vibe, but it's still it's the strongest melodically I think we've been, and that's not hurt at all by the fact our friends it's an all-girl choir. They call themselves the Bad Bitch Choir, and they came in and sang on that track, and it just blew my mind hearing just a choir, like, these people devoted their time to us for free. It's just such a communal vibe. And they just absolutely nailed it. The choir mistress, Alice, just wrote the best parts for them. So that was awesome. And also, the esoteric lyrical nature, I guess it's sort of the most vulnerable I think I've been about what I'm doing, like, just viewpoint-wise, considering, you know, what's more alien than the religion of animals. Now, that's a real stretch to say that could happen, ritual behavior in non-humans. But if you ask yourself these questions, even if they can't have real answers, you can open yourself up to at least looking at people as being people rather than as ends or tools, which I think is how we treat animals. I don't want to go on a big vegan or PETA-informed rant here, because that's not the real intent of the song, but I feel like it's a good closer to an album that asks a lot of questions, with asking, or maybe stating the purpose, which is that people are ends into themselves to do what they need to do. And I feel like that's a really positive way to close an album that up to that point had been quite bleak. So yeah, that's sort of what to say about that without writing a 5,000 word essay. 5,000 word essay.